1615, in a mountain dojo far from the politics of feudal Japan, a master asked a question that cut deeper than any blade. "If you face 10 enemies," he said, "how many can you kill?" The young student answered without hesitation, "All 10. The master shook his head. "You will kill none. The moment you think about 10, you are already dead to the first." That lesson was not about combat. It was about attention, and most people fail it every day. You are not standing on a battlefield, but you are fighting 10 enemies at once. Work, reputation, money, health, relationships, regret, fear, the future, the past, the version of yourself you wish you were. And because your mind is split across all of them, you lose to the one directly in front of you. The samurai understood something modern people forgot. Victory does not begin with action. It begins with presence. Not the sword in your hand, the silence in your mind. Takeshi was 17 when this truth first shattered him. He had trained for 5 years under Yamamoto-sensei in the mountains of Hida province. The Tokugawa shogunate had unified Japan. The great wars were mostly over. But in that dojo, the old way still lived. Discipline, ritual, precision. Takeshi was technically excellent. His cuts were sharp, his footwork clean, his timing correct. If you judged him by form alone, he looked ready. But there was something the master saw that others did not. During sparring with wooden bokken, Takeshi's body tightened. His breath shortened. His movements lost fluidity. His mind raced. What if I get hit? What if I look weak? What if I fail the test? He was never in the strike. He was in the result. The other students whispered, "Good technique. No spirit. He thinks too much. He won't pass." The final examination was approaching, a real duel. The master with a sharpened katana, the student with wood, not to the death, but to the edge of it. Takeshi was nearly 18. The master had said nothing about his test. One evening, after training, Takeshi approached him. Yamamoto-sensei sat in seiza before the shrine, eyes closed. Takeshi knelt and waited. 5 minutes, 10, 15. Finally, the master opened his eyes. "When will I be ready?" Takeshi asked. "You are technically ready now," the master said, "but technical readiness means nothing." Takeshi felt heat in his chest. "I don't understand." "Stand. Take your sword." He obeyed. "Strike me." The master remained kneeling, unarmed. It was the perfect opening. Takeshi lifted the bokken. His hands trembled. He could not move. "I can't," he said. "Why?" "You are my master. It would be disrespectful." The master's gaze hardened. "You lie to yourself. It is not respect, it is fear. You are afraid of what happens after you strike, afraid of my reaction, afraid of failing. Your mind is in 10 places, not here." Each word landed heavy. "Until you learn to be present," Yamamoto said, "you will never be samurai. You will be a corpse with good technique." That night, Takeshi did not sleep. He stared at the moonlight through the paper window of his room. 5 years of discipline, 5 years of sacrifice. And he was losing not because of weakness in the body, but because of noise in the mind. He replayed every sparring match. He was never in the exchange. He was always in the outcome. As dawn came, he made a decision. He would find the answer, not to win, but to be here. The next morning, the master announced there would be no sword practice. They would clean. The students showed no complaint, but inside, they were restless. Sweeping floors felt beneath warriors. Takeshi picked up a broom and began moving dust across wooden boards he had cleaned hundreds of times before. His mind wandered instantly. "This is a waste. I need to train. The test is coming. I'm falling behind." Then he noticed something. Yamamoto-sensei was sweeping too, but not like a chore. Each stroke of the broom was deliberate, full, complete. When he swept left, he was entirely in that movement. When he swept right, there was nothing else. The act felt almost sacred. Takeshi watched. After hours of work, the master called him to the meditation hall behind the dojo. On the wall hung a single scroll, 2 characters, Shoshin. Beginner's mind, the master said. Takeshi nodded. What does it mean? To approach things with humility, deeper. Takeshi hesitated. The master continued. When a beginner lifts a sword for the first time, what fills his mind? Curiosity, focus. And what else? Takeshi thought. Nothing else. Exactly. The master's voice remained calm. The beginner does not think about reputation, he does not imagine victory, he does not fear failure, he is only with the grip, the stance, the swing. He turned toward Takeshi. When you sweep, where is your mind? Takeshi felt the truth rise uncomfortably. Everywhere else. When you fight, the same. You are always one step removed from reality. You sweep while thinking about swords. You practice swords while thinking about the test. You are never fully in anything. The words were not loud, but they cut clean. The samurai's greatest weapon is not the katana, Yamamoto said. It is presence. Zanshin, Fudoshin, Mushin. Different words, same truth. Be here. Takeshi stared at the scroll. How do I practice? Starting tomorrow, the master said. Every act is training. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you swing, there is only the swing. For how long? Until you understand. That night, Takeshi sat for meditation. He did not try to become enlightened. He did not try to feel calm. He simply sat, breathing in, breathing out. Thoughts came. Am I doing this right? Is this working? What if I fail? Each time he noticed the thought, then returned. Here, now. It felt harder than any sparring match, but something had begun, and he did not turn away. The first week was brutal. Present sounds simple. It is not. Takeshi's mind resisted constantly. While eating rice, he wanted to finish faster. While walking, he wanted to arrive sooner. While meditating, he wanted silence. His thoughts attacked from every direction. You are wasting time. Others are improving. You are falling behind. But he kept returning to the breath. Week 2, something shifted. During morning meditation, there was a brief gap. Just a few seconds. The internal noise stopped. Not forced, not suppressed. It simply dropped. In that silence, he heard wind in the trees, the subtle creak of the wooden beams, his own heartbeat. It felt like waking from a long sleep. Then the mind returned. But now he knew. Silence was possible. Presence was real. He trained deeper. When sweeping, he became the movement. When eating, he tasted every grain. When walking, he felt heel touch earth. Weight shift, balance adjust. Other students watched him with confusion. He moves like an old monk. He has lost his edge. The master said nothing. Week 3 brought sparring. Takeshi faced Kenji, a skilled student who had already passed the final test. Old Takeshi would have been calculating. Kenji is stronger. I must impress the master. What if I lose? But now he stood grounded. Kenji attacked fast, an overhead strike. Takeshi's body moved without conscious thought. Sidestep, deflect, counter, fluid, clean, no hesitation, no inner commentary. Kenji blinked in surprise. They reset, fought again. This time Takeshi did not feel like he was fighting Kenji. He was responding to movement, not from memory, not from ego, from awareness. The exchange ended. Kenji bowed deeply. You've changed. Takeshi bowed back. He had. That evening, Yamamoto-sensei approached him. Tomorrow, he said, you will face your final test. Fear rose in Takeshi's chest. He felt it fully, then let it settle. Here, now. Yes, master. At dawn, the courtyard filled with students and visiting masters. Takeshi stood in hakama and gi, wooden bokken in his hand. Across from him, Yamamoto-sensei held a real katana. Steel against wood. Tradition. If the master wished, one clean strike would end him. The air felt tight. The master spoke calmly. Takeshi has trained 5 years. Today he shows not skill but presence. They bowed. The master moved first. A testing strike. Takeshi responded. No thought, only motion. Steel whispered past his shoulder. They circled. Another attack. Faster. Combination strikes. Takeshi flowed. He was not trying to win, not trying to survive, only responding to what existed. 3 minutes passed, an eternity in combat. Then the master created an opening. Obvious, clear, an invitation. Old Takeshi would have lunged, desperate for proof. New Takeshi saw something else. It was a trap. He did nothing. The master paused, then lowered his sword. Enough, he said. You have passed. The courtyard exhaled. Later in private, Yamamoto spoke. 5 years ago, you wanted to be the greatest swordsman. Today you became something better. You became present. He leaned forward slightly. The young warrior chases victory. The mature warrior understands some victories are disguised defeats. Takeshi felt gratitude, but also a deeper pull. I feel like this is only the beginning. The master nodded. There is another transformation. You must leave this dojo. Takeshi looked up. Mount Koya, Yamamoto continued. You will train with Zen monks for 1 year. No sword practice, only presence. Takeshi bowed. If presence was the weapon, he would sharpen it. Mount Koya was sacred ground. When he arrived, he carried his swords. The head monk, Master Iku, met him at the gate. Leave them here. I am samurai. Here you are, beginner. The training was harsher than any combat. Zazen for hours, watching the mind. No movement, no escape. His legs cramped, his back burned, thoughts attacked relentlessly. You are wasting your life. You are losing your edge. You are nothing without the sword. When his posture slipped, the monk's stick tapped his shoulder. Attention. Return. Month 2, a realization formed. Presence is not the absence of thought. It is freedom from being dragged by thought. Thoughts would always arise. The question was simple. Do you chase them or let them pass? He began observing them like clouds. Fear, memory, ambition, all appearing, all dissolving. By month 6, presence deepened. Not just attention to task, but awareness of awareness itself. The silent witness beneath everything. Still. Unmoved. When Master Iku sent him to confront bandits terrorizing a village, Takeshi did not reach for pride, he reached for presence. 5 armed ronin, 1 samurai. Old Takeshi would have planned strategies. New Takeshi walked 3 days in full awareness. Step, breath, step, breath. When the bandits arrived, he stood unarmed. The leader Katsuro laughed at first, then stopped. Takeshi's stillness unsettled him. There was no threat, no tension, no aggression, only presence. When one bandit rushed him, sword raised, Takeshi did not move. Not from paralysis, from complete absence of resistance. The blade stopped inches from his throat. The bandit could not strike. There was nothing to fight. Katsuro lowered his head. Something inside him broke open, not from force, from reflection. Presence had done what violence could not. Years later, Takeshi returned from the mountain not as a student looking for approval, but as a man who had learned what approval can't give you. His hands were the same. His posture was the same, but the center inside him had shifted. He wasn't chasing the feeling of being strong anymore. He had built something quieter, something that didn't depend on winning. When he came back to the dojo, Yamamoto-sensei was older. The master didn't ask about techniques. He didn't ask how many hours Takeshi had sat in meditation. He only watched how Takeshi walked across the courtyard, how he bowed, how he stood still before speaking. In a single glance, Yamamoto understood what had happened. Takeshi had learned that the final form is not a movement of the sword. It is a way of being. Not long after, Yamamoto retired to a small hermitage outside the village. Takeshi became the head of the dojo. Students from nearby provinces began coming to train under him. They expected hard drills and sharp discipline. They were not wrong, but what surprised them was where Takeshi placed the real pressure. He did not test them by making their bodies suffer first. He tested their attention. He watched what happened when they were tired, when they were bored, when they were ignored, when they were praised, when they thought no one was watching. That is where people revealed the truth of their mind. A sword can be trained with repetition. A mind is trained with honesty. One afternoon, a new student arrived, younger than most, maybe 16. His clothing was clean but worn at the edges. He bowed correctly, but his eyes were restless. The kind of restless that looks like ambition but is actually anxiety wearing good manners. "I want to become the greatest swordsman in Japan," he said. Takeshi had heard that sentence before, not from this boy, but from himself. Years ago, before he learned what greatness costs. Takeshi didn't laugh. He didn't criticize, he simply nodded as if the boy had said something normal and then motioned for him to follow. They walked to the shrine inside the dojo. The same place where Takeshi once knelt in fear and asked when he would be ready. The same place where Yamamoto had watched his trembling hands and named the problem for what it was. Above the shrine hung a scroll with 2 characters, Shoshin. Takeshi pointed to it. "Do you know what this says?" The boy looked up quickly. "Beginner's mind." "And what does beginner's mind mean to you?" The boy answered without thinking, because he had already rehearsed the kind of answer that sounds correct. "It means humility, it means training hard, it means not being arrogant." Takeshi nodded. "That's the surface." The boy leaned forward slightly, interested. Takeshi said, "Beginner's mind means you are fully with what is in front of you, not with your future title, not with how you'll look to others, not with whether you're ahead or behind, just this moment, just the next movement." The boy frowned. "But if I'm not thinking about the future, how do I become great?" Takeshi looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "You don't become great by thinking about greatness. You become great by doing the small thing in front of you completely, thousands of times without leaving your mind behind." The boy didn't understand. Takeshi could see it. That was fine. Understanding is rarely immediate. The mind wants a clear reward, a clear path, a guarantee, but real training doesn't offer guarantees. It offers a mirror. Takeshi stepped aside and picked up a broom. He handed it to the boy. "Before we touch swords," he said, "you sweep." The boy's face tightened. Not anger, but disappointment. He had imagined himself learning secret techniques. He had imagined speed and power. He had not imagined a broom. He accepted it anyway. He was still trying to impress, and obedience is an easy way to do that at first. Takeshi watched him begin. The boy's arms moved, but his mind was somewhere else. Takeshi could see it in the speed, in the impatience, in the way the broom lifted slightly at the end of each stroke, like he was trying to finish instead of clean. Takeshi didn't correct him immediately. He let him sweep for several minutes. Then he said, calmly, "Stop." The boy froze. Takeshi walked over, took the broom, and swept one slow line across the floor. The movement was simple but complete. No wasted force, no wandering gaze, no hurry. When the stroke ended, it ended, not because the goal was reached, but because the movement was finished. He handed the broom back. "Again," he said. The boy started sweeping again, slower this time, but his eyes were still drifting. He was trying to do it right instead of doing it fully. Still performance, still self-consciousness. Takeshi said, "You're thinking." The boy looked confused. "I'm just sweeping." "No," Takeshi said. "Your body is sweeping. Your mind is planning what comes next. Your mind is wondering if this is a trick. Your mind is complaining that this is beneath you. You are not here." The boy swallowed. He didn't like being seen that clearly. Takeshi added, "This is why people lose fights. They are always somewhere else. They are fighting imaginary outcomes instead of what is real." The boy tried again. A few strokes went well. Then his rhythm broke. He sped up. He looked toward the sword rack on the wall as if it was calling him. Takeshi didn't scold him. He simply said, "Your mind just left again." The boy exhaled, irritated. "How do I keep it here?" Takeshi answered, "You don't keep it here by force. You bring it back when you notice it's gone. Again and again. That is the training." That was the core lesson Takeshi had learned on Mount Koya. Presence is not a mood. It's not calm music. It's not a personality trait. It's a repeated act of returning. You notice. You return. You notice again. You return again. Over time, the return becomes stronger than the drift. Days passed. The boy swept every morning, cleaned the weapons, washed the floors, carried water. And every day, Takeshi pointed out the same thing in different forms. When you carry water, carry water. When you bow, bow. When you eat, eat. At first, the boy thought it was too simple to matter. Then slowly, he began to feel how difficult it really was. Not difficult for the body, difficult for the mind. His body could handle labor. His mind could not handle boredom without escaping, and that was the point. One morning, after weeks of this, Takeshi allowed him to begin sword practice. The boy expected Takeshi to start with impressive moves. Instead, Takeshi showed him the basic grip, the stance, the first cut. Then he said, "Do not rush." The boy cut once, clean enough. He cut again, better. Then on the third cut, Takeshi stopped him. "Where were you just now?" The boy blinked. "What do you mean?" "You cut twice," Takeshi said. "And on the third, you started thinking about the next 10. You're already chasing an outcome." The boy's jaw tightened. He felt exposed again. Takeshi didn't soften the lesson. "If you think about 10 enemies, you lose to the first," he said. "If you think about 10 cuts, you ruin the one you are doing. This is not philosophy, this is mechanics. A divided mind produces divided movement." The boy asked, "So what should I do?" Takeshi said, "Do one cut like it is the only cut that exists." The boy tried. This time his shoulders relaxed, his breath settled. The sword moved more naturally, not because he forced it, but because he stopped interfering. Takeshi nodded once. No praise, just confirmation. Weeks became months. The boy's technique improved, but that was not the real change. The real change was in the space between his thoughts. He began to notice his own impatience, his own need to compare, his need to be seen. He began catching it sooner. At first, his mind would run for minutes before he realized he had left the moment. Later, he noticed within seconds. Later still, he noticed right as the drift began. That is what discipline looks like when it is real, not intensity, awareness. There was a day when the boy asked, "Master, when will I be ready for the final test?" Takeshi looked at him and felt a quiet recognition. History repeating itself, but with one difference. This boy was asking with less desperation, more steadiness. He still wanted the test, but he wasn't begging to be proven. Takeshi said, "You are ready when you can face fear without negotiating with it." The boy asked, "How will I know?" Takeshi said, when fear rises and you do not make it your commander. The boy didn't fully understand, but he bowed. That was enough. Later that week, Takeshi took him into the courtyard at dawn. No audience, no ceremony, just the two of them. Takeshi held a real blade. The boy held wood. Takeshi did not attack with cruelty, but he attacked with truth. Fast enough that the boy could not rely on thinking. The first strike came. The boy flinched, his mind panicked, his grip tightened, his feet froze. Takeshi stopped. They reset. Takeshi said, "You just left." The boy breathed, trying to calm himself. Takeshi attacked again. This time the boy moved, not perfectly, but honestly. He blocked, stepped, and recovered. Still tense, still frightened, but present enough to act. They reset again. Takeshi attacked a third time, and something subtle happened. The boy's eyes stopped searching for approval. He stopped trying to look skilled. His body responded. Not smoothly like a master, but cleanly like someone not arguing with reality. After several exchanges, Takeshi lowered his sword and stepped back. The boy stood there, chest rising and falling, sweat on his brow, but his gaze was clear. Takeshi said, "That is the beginning." The boy looked confused. "I thought the goal was to pass." Takeshi answered, "Passing is not the goal. Passing is a checkpoint. The goal is to become someone who can stay here under pressure. Because pressure will come whether you want it or not, in conflict, in loss, in responsibility, in love, in death." The boy swallowed hard. Takeshi continued, "The sword is a tool. It reveals the mind, that's all." The boy asked, "And what does presence give me?" Takeshi's answer was simple. Freedom. Not freedom as a slogan, freedom as in you are no longer dragged by your own mind. You can feel fear and still move. You can feel anger and still choose. You can feel uncertainty and still act cleanly. That is real strength. It is quiet. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It shows up in the smallest moments. How you listen, how you walk into a room, how you answer when you are tired, how you hold your tongue when you want to react, how you do one thing at a time without slipping into performance. Most people want to become powerful. They train skill and ignore attention. Then they wonder why they collapse under pressure. Because skill without presence is unstable. It works until the mind panics. Then it disappears. Presence is the opposite. Presence is stable because it is not dependent on conditions. It is built through returns. Return to breath. Return to the floor beneath your feet. Return to the movement in your hands. Return to the moment you are actually living. That is why Takeshi began with a broom, not to humble the student for tradition's sake, but because sweeping shows you the truth immediately. If you can't sweep without leaving the moment, you can't fight without leaving it. If you can't listen without planning your reply, you can't lead without ego. If you can't be present in the ordinary, you will not be present in the dangerous. Years later, some students would remember Takeshi for his swordsmanship, but the ones who stayed longer remembered something else. They remembered the feeling of being around a man who did not rush, a man whose attention was whole, a man who could stand in silence without needing to fill it. And in that silence, they found their own mind. Not because he taught them by lecturing, because he taught them by being present. That is the actual transmission. Not words, not stories, presence. And if you understand that, then you understand the real path of the samurai. Not violence, not domination, not achievement. A steady return to what is real, one moment at a time.